Okay, we're back. This is Attorney Vincent Davis with my co-host Aaron Carranza, and this show is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. Aaron, are you with us?
I am.
Let's take another call.
We have Marnie from California. Do you have a question to ask or a story to tell? Hi. Thank you so much for letting me speak to you. Welcome. Did you ask me if I have a story or if I had a question? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, I said, do you have a story to tell or a question to ask, or do you have both?
I have both, but depending on your time, I could do one or the other.
What's the most important thing for you to get out or get answered? Go with that.
How to get my grandchildren back.
Okay.
I used to be a CPS social worker. I did ER court, and I can tell you honestly, I'm baffled by this case. It ethically, morally, and legally just doesn't make sense. My daughter got involved with a person who she shouldn't have, and definitely there was reason to be concerned. I did an intervention and tried to get her into rehab. She chose to contact her father instead, and things went very downhill very quickly. He put her on a plane with the 1.5-year-old at the time without a destination, a confirmation of the rehab that she may or may not have lined up in LA County. We're from Northern California. And when she got down there was nobody to pick her up. There was nobody aware that she was supposed to be going into treatment. She remained in the airport for about 6 hours trying to figure out where she was supposed to go. At one point, the police contacted me, asked me what was going on. I explained that her biological father had said he was going to help. He instead put her on a plane, and I couldn't get him to tell me where she was supposed to be or to send me a screenshot of his phone and the numbers that he had called because he said he couldn't figure it out. But now I realize that it was a setup, and unfortunately, it worked. But the social worker contacted me, asked me if I would come down and get the child that was with my daughter. And I said, yes, of course. I drove through fire lines, the 10 hours to get to LA. They said, no matter what time you get here, contact us and we will give the child to you. I said, okay, absolutely. They did my background checks. I passed, of course, went down there. And on the way, the social worker called me, and he was upset that I didn't bring the 2.5-year-old that I've been caring for full time with me, which didn't make any sense. As a social worker, I know that a child that's not involved in an incident definitely would not be involved in a case, especially when they're 400 miles away from the incident. But he was upset about that. I explained that didn't make any sense to me, and I apologized, and I had, in fact, called back and asked if I had understood my daughter correctly, and the social worker that answered said, I'm sure that he's not asking you to do that. That doesn't make sense. So I got down there. I contacted him. I wasn't able to reach him. I wasn't able to reach him for 3 days. In fact, I contacted him. I called the number multiple times. His supervisor, everything I could think of to do. Went to court. The judge told the social worker, county council, to place the child in my care. They said, oh, well, we need to do the background checks. I explained they had already been done. They said, oh, we can't find those results. We'll need to do them again. There was a social worker with me at the time that heard this as well. We went through the process again. 3 hours later, I cleared. Now, when I contacted the social worker, did not get a response back. 2 days later, we went back to court because the case was divided into the 3 different children. I don't know why, but that's how they did it. And again, the judge asked why the child hadn't been placed with me and ordered that the child be placed with me. However, it wasn't a direct order. The way that he said it left it up to the discretion of the social workers, I later realized, or was explained to me. And they, at that time, said, well, we can't place the child in her care until she gets a place here in LA, because the court hearing is going to be down here. The reunification services are going to be down here, even though they're not from this county, which sounded outrageous to me, that they would expect me to get a house down in LA County when I have a house in Northern California, but I tried, and I could not find a place. And ultimately, even though they were supposed to place the children with me, they did not, kept delaying it, saying there wasn't a social worker on the case, which, unless it's different in Southern California, that would be illegal. There has to be a social worker on a case when there's children involved. And then I could not get a hold of any social workers. No one would call me back. It was really weird. And at the night before the jurisdictional hearing, I was on my way back down to Southern California because I had left since they told me there was no social worker on the case. There was nothing I could do until the jurisdictional hearing. I was on my way back, and I finally got a call from the social worker on the case. And she basically told me that she'd already made her decision, that she was going to place the children with the biological father who had endangered my daughter and the child and sent her down to Southern California, that the youngest child would be placed with his mother, and that the oldest child that I'd raised since birth was going to be placed with her biological father, who she'd never met, who had abandoned her. None of this makes sense to me still, and I've gone through everything I can think of. I hired an attorney, even though I was told that I'm not a party in the case and I could not be heard, and I was not heard. I was never allowed to speak in court, to testify, to produce evidence, and I had a lot of evidence. But the bottom line after all of that was that the social worker blatantly lied, and I could prove it with the documentation she put in the court reports. And there were the biological father of my daughter also lied. So unfortunately, evidence. However, it could be proven false. And I have not been able to get an attorney to prove this. I hired somebody who was supposed to be great down there. He did not do it. He did not even bring up the fact that the social worker stated in her report that a detective had seen the child, the oldest one, that she'd been medically examined and found not to have been sexually assaulted. That's just a detail, but it's important because it never happened. I've talked to the detective twice, once in the presence of an attorney, but I can't get anybody to fight this for me, and I can't understand why. And the judge has reordered or ordered that the case be reinvestigated because it did not seem right to anybody there. CPS down in LA County did not do that. I was then ordered, or he actually ordered court-ordered visitation for me, and that was never followed. I could not get anybody to do anything they're supposed to do. After listening to your show, I'm realizing that there's a lot of people out there who have had similar experiences with just not getting the social workers to do their job. And I would not have believed that social workers could be like this because I am or was an ethical social worker. I always worked so hard to get families back together if I had to remove a child. So I can't understand why they've done absolutely nothing here. And even though my daughter was definitely in bad shape, so were the fathers in this case. They should have given them reunification services. They should have given them visitation. They didn't do any of that either, which, again, I don't understand.
Okay, Marnie.
Uh-huh.
For you to understand something like that, you're never going to understand it because there's no way you can know what their agenda is. You know, I was telling somebody earlier, maybe it was Aaron, social workers have their own agenda. You think it's to do the quote-unquote right thing, but, you know, what's right to one person is wrong to another. What you have to focus on is getting the children placed with you. And in order to do that, you're going to have to do some certain things, file certain types of motions/petitions with the court, file a 388 petition to get the child or children placed with you. Okay? That's what you're going to have to do first.
Can I hire you to help me with that? Because so far, no one has done what I've asked them to do.
Okay, write down my telephone number and call tomorrow. Tell them that we talked on the phone, and I'll try to give you a call tomorrow. 888-888-6582, 888-888-6582, and we'll talk more about your case. Okay?
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling, Maureen. Thank you for listening.